What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. My name is Phoenyx 787 if you didn't notice that, and one of the reasons I am known as Phoenyx 787 is because I used to do aviation videos, so this is an aviation video. I'm not flying anywhere today, but I'm here to discuss a little bit about the differences between Haneda and Narita Airport. Those are the two main airports you're going to fly into when you're coming to Tokyo. It used to be those airports were pretty different from each other. Like, it was, aside from the distance from Tokyo, just the whole experience of flying through them was drastically different. Primarily that was because of Haneda's slot restrictions. The foreign airlines were given really bad and really inconvenient slots, like late at night, early in the morning, when you had to pretty much stay at the airport when you arrived there because there was just no public transit. But that's changed. It's pretty convenient to get through Haneda Airport now. Like, the America-bound flights usually take off and land around the same time. So Haneda Airport's a pretty good airport to fly through. But if you want to choose and, you know, use this video to kind of make your decision on your itinerary, then go right ahead, right? I'll start with Haneda, the benefits and the detractions, the good and the bad of Haneda Airport. The good, it's obviously really close to Tokyo. If I had a car, I could probably drive there from here in about 15 minutes with minimal traffic, and the train ride's like 30 minutes from my house. It's just such an easy, convenient airport to get to. The overlooks at the airport are really beautiful. Like, one of the overlooks at Terminal 1 overlooks the, I say that word, I'm saying that word a lot. You can see over Tokyo Bay. You can see the arriving aircraft to the south and in the north. It's such a cool view. If you have some time for spotting, I always recommend going to the terminal to check it out, right? Also, before security, the restaurants and the shops are they're amazing. Really good stuff, really good food, really good shopping, good souvenirs. The international terminal is beautiful, especially for souvenir shopping. Now for the detractions of Haneda Airport. It used to be that the slots kind of screwed up the times, like I mentioned earlier, and in some cases that's still the situation, especially if you're flying from Asia. You might end up with a really inconvenient slot going into Haneda, but most of the time you're not going to deal with that problem, especially if you're coming from the Western world. You'll be fine. For Asian airlines, the parking slots are really inconvenient. So basically, the time it takes from the aircraft to park until you get through customs, sometimes it's kind of inconvenient at Haneda Airport. You might be walking a lot, you might be having to take a bus because they parked you at a remote stand. When I fly Delta, they park at one of 3 separate spots at Haneda Airport, and it's a pretty decent walk from Jet Bridge to customs. But once when I flew ANA, he parked right here, and then customs was right here, so it was pretty easy if you were flying ANA or JAL to get through customs. Also, in the terminal after security, especially in the international terminal when you're flying back, there's not much there. Like, the snack selection, there's like 2 coffee shops. There is no convenience store or anything like that. Unlike Narita Airport, which has a convenience store, has some snacks and souvenir shops. The majority of the stuff that's in Haneda's international terminal past security is duty-free. So I remember, if you recall, in one of my vlogs that I made a few months ago, I think it was, when I went through Haneda Airport to go back to America, I literally had to buy a box that was like nachos and what looked like radioactive cheese, just so I could have a snack before I boarded the flight. So that was the one thing that, and there's nothing in there really. I mean, there's a Victoria's Secret in the international terminal. So for those of you Japanese people looking for a Victoria's Secret, there you go. It's in the international terminal. The other detraction, it's not so much of a detraction, but it can be a problem, especially if you're low on money. Haneda Airport tends to be kind of expensive, especially if you're flying JAL or ANA, because the slots that Haneda Airport uses are really valuable. These airlines put a lot of price on these slots when they file the paperwork with the Japanese government to be able to fly into Haneda. The prices tend to be a little bit more expensive. But I mean, I've paid $600 for a intercontinental ticket out of Haneda Airport on Delta once. So if you're smart and you plan ahead, you know exactly when you're flying, then there you go, right? Before I get into more technical details about Haneda, I'm going to give the benefits and detractions of Narita. The benefit of Narita is the airport mall is it's probably one of the best airport malls after my favorite, which is Minneapolis-St. Paul. Going through security is usually really quick. Check-in is always really quick. You're barely waiting in line when you're checking in your bag and stuff. There's a lot to do in the terminal, except it's a little bit dark, but yeah, it's whatever, right? There's also a huge variety of airlines that fly into Narita Airport. So if you're flying from somewhere really obscure, most likely your country's airline is going to fly into Narita Airport. So that's a lot more convenient for you if you fly your country's flag carrier airline, right? The detraction of Narita is it's far. Like, you're looking at an hour train ride on the Narita Express, a 2-hour bus ride. You could take that Skyliner train, but it's a little bit expensive. Like, you're looking at 3,000 yen for that, and that's a 38 minute train ride to Ueno, which is the north part of town. So if you're going to Ueno, then, you know, good, but my part of town's in the south, so it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass to get to Narita. The other detraction is you might be waiting a long time in the customs line. Like, that line can get pretty big. For me, since I have a re-entry permit, I just sign a paper, go through, and then when I come back, I hand them that paper, and I'm in the baggage claim. That's pretty easy right there. Narita Airport's also restricted time-wise, so you gotta make sure you're really good with your connections and stuff like that, because the airport pretty much shuts down after 7 o'clock at night. I had a delayed flight once where I got in around 8 o'clock because of huge headwinds, and I had to take the Skyliner back to Tokyo because there was no more Narita Expresses that were departing from Narita. Like, it's just basically you're looking at close and a little bit more expensive and farther and cheaper, basically. Now, the two airports, they have what's called star arrivals, which if you look at flightaware.com, you'll notice these star arrivals. It's called Standard Terminal Arrival Procedure, and both Narita and Haneda have really beautiful star arrivals. If you're flying and you're in a window seat and you want to film it, both airports have really beautiful arrivals. One of the main things I like about Narita's arrival is you're flying over the countryside of Japan, and it's just farmland, rivers, and oh, it's one of the most beautiful things in the world, basically. And I'll show you this screenshot here. It's past 8 o'clock, so a lot of the aircraft arriving at Narita have already left, but you see that steady stream on the left of all those planes landing at Haneda. Those are all taking one of the star arrival procedures into Haneda. If you're flying from the north, especially, you're gonna fly over Disneyland, and you're gonna fly over Kasai Rinkai Park. You're gonna be able to see the Sky Tree. It's a beautiful landing procedure. If you recall, on my most recent vlog that I was landing at Haneda, one of my most recent vlogs from Haneda, you could see Mount Fuji as we were arriving. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because it's just, here's Tokyo down here, and then way out in the distance is just gigantic mountain. It puts things into perspective. You're like, wow, I'm really high up. So that's the main differences between those two airports. I mean, of course, you're not really guaranteed those arrivals. It depends on the weather. Like, there's been times where I've landed at Haneda and Narita in shitty weather, and especially Narita. When the weather's bad, it's a bumpy landing. There's videos on the internet of aircraft having to go around because of the winds. Because the problem with Narita is you got two parallel runways that are at a northwest-southeast slant, basically. Rather, northwest-southeast slant. And the winds in this area kind of go from, here's the main runway, right? Winds in this area kind of go in this direction, basically. So it's called a crosswind, for those of you not familiar with the technical jargon. Crosswind landings at Narita have been problematic before, and actually back in 2009 there was a freight aircraft that had a very severe crosswind and pretty much crashed and burned. Obviously that's the only time that's ever had a huge effect on an aircraft to the point where people were dying, but the master plan of Narita has a third runway which crosses the two main runways, and they're trying to build it, but there's a lot of local opposition. I mean, people just don't care for safety. The Communist Party of Japan does. They don't have any sort of care for airline safety, and if the Japanese authorities were smart, they would build that third runway, because it's just, you need that third runway for the winds in that area. Haneda Airport has crosswind runways. Sometimes if the wind's really strong from the west, that's when you're going to land over Disneyland and Kasai Rinkai Park. If the winds are coming from the east, you'll see aircraft take off, especially if you're in Odaiba. Aircraft will take off like this and immediately bank to the south. Like, as soon as they're airborne, they're just gonna immediately go south. It's really cool. And of course, like I mentioned earlier in previous videos, the go-around procedure is pretty much right above my head. Yesterday there was 4 aircraft that went around my apartment because they were doing an inspection on one of the runways at Haneda. And it was a sight to behold, just one after another. It looked like they were taking off. And it wasn't loud either, because, I mean, I was outside and I was standing by the river. I could see it clearly when they were coming over, and I don't know, I wish they would have that. That'd be a really cool departure procedure if they just flew right over my head. But yeah, I mean, I'm rambling now. That's the differences between the two airports. Basically, like I've always said with aviation related videos, fly smart, you know, look ahead, plan ahead, and you'll get there without breaking the bank. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions related to these airports or related to aviation. I'll get back to you on them. This Friday I'm flying out of Narita, I believe. No, I'm flying out of Haneda first, and then I come back via Narita. So that'll happen too sometimes when you book your itinerary, but that's just how I chose it for this time around. I'm flying a good old A350 back to Japan in about 15 or 20 days. I don't know when I'm flying yet. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video, and I'll see y'all later. Take it easy, Phoenicians.